Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, really fun discussion video that I've kind of been thinking up for a while. I've had this thought kind of go through my mind of like what this one archetype has, what Dragon Link specifically has that kind of makes them able to compete format after format after format after format, and what I wish some of these other types would get as well to kind of like match Dragon Link, because it really seems like Konami went above and beyond to make Dragon Link as good as it is. And yeah, that's kind of the basis here. I just think Dragon Link has this one particular card. Now, they have obviously a ton of insane cards for their engine, a ton of insane cards depending on the build you go for that you can make use of, obviously. But this one card is the backbone, that no matter what part of your engine you have, no matter what monsters you're in right now, you can always get to it, and that is what allows this deck to still survive and still hang in there, win grindy duels, get the job done when your main play gets shut down, and that's this card right here. Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. If you do not know about this card, it's insane. In my opinion, it's the best Dragon Link card they have at the moment. That like makes the deck good. Bizstead's going to come out, and obviously the Bizsteads are insane, but I still think this card as the backbone of the deck is still like the most integral part. So anyway, it takes any two dragon monsters. Cool, it's a link to it, points down. Its stat is 0, so it's very small, which means you can't threaten into the battle phase, but that's not, that does matter, but whatever. It's still an insane card. And its effects are pretty much this. It's when you're once per your opponent's turn, if this card is in the EMZ, you can quick effect tribute one monster from your hand or field, usually it'll tribute itself, to return a face-up card on the field to the hand. Any face-up card, by the way, so that spell, trap, monster, your own stuff as well. Cool. Then secondly, if this card is tributed, I don't know, like its own first effect that we just read, special summon one dragon monster from your hand or deck and make its attack and defense 0. Yes, the monster becomes 0, but this does not negate it. So you could literally summon a follow-up card that searches you another card guaranteed for follow-up, or even a monster that's like an interruption. There's a couple of dragon monsters that like when they're summoned, they like interrupt your opponent again. So insanely crazy card. Basically what I want to get at here is just the overall outline of what this card is. It is a super easy to make link to. Any two monsters in your entire type make this card. Cool. Secondly, it's an interruption. One card interruption that doesn't need any setup, right? It doesn't need you to guarantee something's in hand or, have a specific monster in grave or anything. Just making this is already a guaranteed interruption. And thirdly, also a form of follow-up. This card is not only an interruption, but also guarantees you follow, which means if every single card in your hand is used, if you use your entire hand, whatever it is, get nibbed, get your board wiped, whatever it is, hand traps galore, you just can't get anywhere else. You have no cards in hand, but you've got 2 dragons on the field. This gives you an interruption to make it so your opponent doesn't play for free into your board, and you guarantee a follow-up at least on the next turn. That is so valuable. And so that's the overall outline. Link 2, it's an interruption and follow-up at the same time. That's what I want to see for some of these types. So now we're going to go through a bunch of the other types that I would talk about, how they would make use of some of this stuff. Insects. Insects, we literally just saw this happen. Insects were legit a tier 1 deck when DPE was still in the... Well, I guess DPE is in the form because of Verte. Verte got banned. And the Link 2 that would replace Verte in this deck would essentially just fill that exact same role, right? We made Verte because you did your whole play, you might have gotten stopped, or you did your whole play, and on top of it, you also ended on that interruption by making Verte and going into DPE. And so that was like your fallback plan. That was your backbone, was to just rely on DPE on top of having stuff like Sting Lancer. But if this deck got its own like new Link 2 that was by itself an interruption and got you some form of follow-up, and I think the way to make these a little more fair is kind of like what they do with Spheres. You cannot make Spheres going second and immediately use it into your opponent's board. It only fires on your opponent's turn. So that kind of balances the card a little bit. It's not a great card going second. It's a decent card if you're just going to make it and pass, because like if you're in a mid-range state, you can still play with that. As long as your opponent doesn't have negates all over you, you can be fine, right? But same thing. Just I think Beat Troopers have one of the best setups. Beat Troopers, insects in general, and if they actually got this, they would actually go immediately back up to a relevant, at least like respectable rogue level deck. Maybe tier 2, maybe even at its best if we got other insect stuff with it, which we have coming, tier 1. But we'll see. Next up, Ogdoadic, or Reptiles in general. This deck kind of, when I was playing it, I know this deck never really saw a lot of play. I did not see a lot about anybody really playing this, even on a rogue level. It's essentially like Ogdoadic, Alien, Reptilian kind of stuff combined. They do a lot of stuff in the graveyard, which is very good, and they were at their prime when they could, again, take advantage of DPE. They can also do some rank 8 plays, they can also do some rank 4 plays, but it's just straight up better to get DPE because, like I said, getting to DPE was essentially an interruption plus follow-up. You're always getting back DPE, and you were drawing 2 cards on the next turn, like, for free. So, very, very tough to, like, say that, like, you know, without that, like, it may not be quite as strong, but still, a Link 2 that was guaranteed interruption, like, if you get all the way to the Alien play, it's very strong because you get the, like, the straight-up, like, Buster, not Buster Lock, but the Buster Blade or Fusion kind of lock. Like, you literally negate your opponents and every monster they summon, all that stuff, which is very, very strong. But there's outs to it, and also if you're getting hand trapped or you're playing going second, it's very hard to get all the way there sometimes. So I'd like a safer backboney option to be able to get to first or after everything else has been stopped and still make some things happen. That's ideal to me, at least. Next up, Cybers. Cybers is one where I would say I don't know if they necessarily need it, but I wanted to throw it out there because I also left like machines and plants off this list because those decks are already, like, in my opinion, like, just, I mean, I guess you could argue like Earth Machine is like an okay deck, not great. But I think if they got a Link 2 of Hieratic Seal's level, that deck would go like so hard. That deck would be like one of the best decks in the game probably, just because they do everything but make a ton of interruptions, and that card helps so much with that. Would help if it got it. Cybers, again, super crazy, super easy to like put monsters on the field. A lot of Link 1s, a lot of 1-card Link 2s. And like amazing extenders. So I think this one again would be another broken one like that. But we also, like, when was the last time, aside from like specific archetypes like Salad, like actually seen like generic Cybers good stuff actually be like a good deck? I mean, like, it's been respectable as a rogue deck. Like, you have to respect the power it brings, but like it's never done a ton in tournament play. So that would be really interesting. I think it'd be kind of crazy because they have so many powerful tools already. Next up, this is not specifically Mermaid. This is just kind of like, okay, so in my opinion, the Mermaid, Atlantean, Frog, I guess you could play Sharks in it now kind of deck, the Deep Sea, they play all those like different engines in it. It's kind of just Mermaid, Atlantean that's evolved over the years, is essentially the equivalent of like Earth Machine, but for like water good stuff. They play a bunch of different just good extenders, a bunch of water stuff. Abyssalacia is cool, but again, she is one of those cards that I kind of brought up earlier. She requires you to have a specific type of card in your hand. Well, doesn't require you. She's just not an interruption unless you have one of those, like a marksman or a whatever, the other Atlantean that pops a card in hand. And so it requires you to like search something out. But it's not just make this card on the spot. It's immediately an interruption past turn. This card's still good for what it's worth, but it still feels like that deck would definitely appreciate a more mid-range option, because one of the problems with that deck is it definitely loses 2 hand traps pretty hard. So obviously something like that would be really huge, and just be able to get hand trapped a little bit easier and still at least have a win condition, a game plan to go into, and not just have to like pass because you didn't get to Moonland Glacier, you didn't rip a ton of cards out of your opponent's hand, you didn't end on any eruptions, you're kind of screwed, right? So yeah, that kind of falls in with all of those. Also, another thing I left off this list is like the Tri-Beast stuff, just because with Tri-Brigade, that inherently helps every single deck like that, and Tri-Brigade helps you just get to super easily either something like Hresvelg for like the quick effect shuffle from graveyard, or the Ancient Warriors Link 2. It's just a bounce every turn. So I still think those are like good enough, especially when you can play those in literally every Tri-Beast deck, that like, I don't know if they really need like another Link 2 like that, because they kind of already have Link 2s that interrupt. So yeah. Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs feel like they've just been power crept. I mean, I get it. We still have Misk on the list, but Misk is on the list because it's like kind of degenerate. It's kind of just stupid. It makes you like waste cards for no reason, and it makes a deck with an insane payoff like Conductor able to just like turn your deck off until they just kill you, which is insane, obviously. And so when we look at this deck, they have a lot of they have like obviously insane starters like Oviraptor, Dig to help have consistency there. They have a couple good extenders as well, and they're going to get a couple more with the Doodle Beasts as well. There's some cool stuff. We just need to kind of see where we go with it, to be honest. if they got a Link 2 that was like this, like a basic interruption, and offered you some sort of follow-up, that would be so huge, and kind of like getting like Dinosaurs back on track, back to playability in the modern era. I would love to see modern day Dinosaur support, because it's been a while. Doodle Beasts are nice, but we're literally getting like 3 Doodle Beast cards. They're not enough. They're not like really enough to actually push the deck out there, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's an argument that you should just give the deck a really good level 4 extender. That way we can abuse the Evolzar Exceed monsters a little bit more, but I think this would be a little more universally useful, depending on like what level monsters we have access to at any moment in the deck, which is cool. Next up is Fairies. Fairies have a lot of weird stuff. Diviner, obviously, 1 card would probably get you to this. This card's like been played in so many different decks. Maybe this could be Agents, and put Agents back on the map, because they were one of those decks that kind of felt like they had to get pretty far to actually get enough payoff to make them strong enough to compete in the game. So if they got stopped early, they were just kind of fucked. But if they could get to a card like this, that would be so crazy. And also the benefit, like, could you imagine if they just took what Hieratic Seal is and made it for Fairies, and you could like bounce an opponent's card, then special a Diviner on the opponent's turn, and then Diviner send Intis to pop another card. And you literally just got to bounce and pop off of that. It's crazy. Or Herald search, like, get you a follow-up. Like, send you something from deck and then get you a follow-up. Would be absolutely crazy. So insane. Yeah, I think this one would be one of like a really crazy one as well to definitely keep in mind. Specifically for Agents, because Agents are one of the few like pretty pure fairy decks in the game that are actually somewhat competent. It's really not a ton. There's like a lot of combination stuff we saw with like the Drytrons, like fairy packages, but like not full-on fairy decks that just pump fairies on the field super easily. So definitely something to keep in mind. Fiends. Fiends would be awesome. You guys know I already mess around with multiple different Fiend decks, whether it's BA, whether it's Unchained, whether it's Labyrinth. They would all like get benefits off of this. It would make Tour Guide way better, because like even in BA you're like, what is Tour Guide really getting you right now? When DP was out, like this card was way more interesting, because you were literally just getting to DPE with an extra follow-up, which was really cool. And yeah, I mean, like, I like where we're at with this. Fiends have been getting a little bit of support as of lately, but this would be the icing on the cake. They just got the news reporter link to it. It's a really good extender, but not an interruption inherently. So that would be really, really crazy. It'd make a lot of stuff a lot more interesting. And yeah, I would definitely be pretty open to that one as well. Spellcasters, I've for years kept my eyes on Spellcasters because of the Spellbook engine, because of Dogmatica, even Magistus, extenders like Magician Souls, like absolutely broken extenders like that. I always kept my eye on this deck, but it didn't feel like it was all coming together quite as well as we really wanted it to. If we one day just got a Link 2 that was Hieratic Seal for Spellcasters, the sky is the limit. Summon, like, tribute itself to bounce a card, then summon an Ecclesia from deck, Ecclesia Search Fleur-de-Lis, and you just get like an imperm effect plus a bounce, and you're going to actually already have like a fair amount of attack into your opponent's like life points next turn already, is really, really good. And there's other stuff too. It just, you know, obviously it just depends, but so crazy. I would love to see this Spellcaster combination deck actually come to fruition with like a really good Link 2. Maybe they just like give us a new wave of spellbook cards, and there's like maybe 1 or 2 other new monsters that are like legit extenders, and put multiple Spellcasters on the field, and then just make the Link 2. I don't know. It seems like it'd be pretty cool. Whatever, that'd be insane. Rocks. The only thing with rocks is that, like, let's be honest, there's no rock good stuff deck. Adamancipator is Adamancipator. It's not really rock good stuff. They play a couple of utility rock cards just because that's how their engine works, but it's mostly Adamancipator. And if we actually made like Hieratic Seal but for rocks, it may just be good enough to put like Adamancipator back on the competitive map again, not just as a rogue deck, like, but actually higher, because, you know, even as a fallback plan, any 2 rocks, boom, you've got to play, you've got a way to you know, you've got a path to victory. In a lot of situations they just did not have before. So yeah, that would be really cool. But yeah, mostly it would help them. I guess I'm a big Magnet Warrior fan, so I guess I'd help them too if it was generic, but yeah. And I think the last one here is zombies. This is a weirder one too because zombies have been somewhat relevant over the last couple formats with combining with punk. It's more of a rogue deck than anything, but it is a higher tier rogue deck for sure. And it's very powerful, but they usually rely more on synchro plays than link plays. Doesn't mean they can't do link plays, just they've already seen some success with the synchro stuff, so I don't know if Konami would like actively go away from that. They've already made like a handful of links too for this archetype, so I don't know if they'd like keep pumping that out, but I could see it. Zombies are a fan favorite, so I would not be surprised if to make some money Konami was like, you know what, let's give zombies a bone. But I think it really helped them. Especially a deck that can end up being bricky at times just because they have so many cards that want to be engraved, not even really in the hand that much. So like kind of helping make use of those. Maybe it's a card that like dumps a card from hand to, or sends a card from hand to do an interruption. That way you kind of unbrick some bricky zombies in hand while still getting up into interruption. Would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea for the video though. I just want to talk about this for like a while. But like I look at heavenly, like Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. I'm not a huge dragon fan myself, but I just look at this card, and as a fan of so many other like of these like kind of just whatever type good stuff decks, I'm just like, man, Dragon Link is so lucky that they have this. If like so many different types could have this card, and it would immediately provide them like a way to play and like a legit backbone that like that keeps them essentially right now is keeping them out of being like legitimately playable in the competitive scene, and it's a shame, but we'll see. You know, hopefully we see some more stuff. I mean, we're seeing a lot of power creep, so I do think more of these cards could exist if Konami wanted to go that route. I'd like to see it. I don't know how many other people would like to see it, but I guess that's why I'm making the video. So let me know your thoughts down below on this idea. Do you want to see more decks get the equivalent of like a Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, but for them? Do you think that'd be a good idea? Do you think that'd be stupid? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking on that. But I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.